Welcome to the review on Not Without Laughter. Just kidding. I was like laying down and now I'm sitting up. So that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. I thought I had a physical copy of this book, but I don't. But I will read Langston Hughes, Not Without Laughter. I have like a sheet up, but I wanted to give y'all a review, not review, but let y'all know the backstory about this book. So this book is written by Langston Hughes. Some of y'all may have already read his stuff, but I thought I would talk about him as being the October pick for the Black Classics read-along book club that I created. So this follows the story of a young guy named Sandy Rogers. So Sandy, we're pretty much getting a glimpse about his whole life. So Sandy is in this very unique family, the small town in Kansas. And the book starts off with a natural disaster happening, and then the family trying to like pick up the pieces and work through things as they are experiencing their own type of disasters. Is it a natural disaster? No, but there are disasters that's happening. So the main characters in this book is Sandy Rogers, who is the little boy, Jimbone Rogers, who is Sandy's Rogers dad, and then his dad and then his mom, Angie, and then his aunt slash grandma, but in the book she's called Aunt Hager, but that is Sandy's grandma. And then Tempe, who is Angie's sister. And Tempe is married to this man named Mr. Siles. And they are in a specific sect of Christianity and just have a lot of views about Negroes. And they're very uppity and don't like to do anything that is seen Negro. And they like to really live in the white gaze and pretty much just shucking and jiving and doing what they gotta do to be as white as possible. And Harriet is Aunt Hager's second daughter. And then Maudel, who's in the book as well, is a friend of Harriet. And then Willie Mae Johnson is a friend of Sandy. So that is pretty much the gist of the book and the characters. So we are doing all the live content today. This is the second one out of 3. Hey, Shay. Hey, Unique. Me. And hey again. So some things I wanted to talk about this book. What really had me stump was how observant Sandy was. Again, Sandy is the little boy. And I felt like throughout the book, he had the most changes. And I feel that way because he's born into this family. His mom is a very play by the rules type of mom. And she marries this guy named Jim Boy. And Jim Boy is really out for himself. He is a musician and he's just trying to live his life. And you never know if he's going to show up or be there for his wife and also his son. He also married Sandy's mom because she was tamed in the sense, like she wasn't going out and doing all kind of other things. She was like a homebody, taking care of home and taking care of the kid. So that's why he married her, because of that. But then you got Auntie Hager, or, Sandy's grandma, who is really devout in her faith. And she feels like she wants to keep her family together. And it's a struggle. Like, it was very heartbreaking to read the points where she was like praying to God, like, please make sure Sandy's a good boy, or please bring my son back home. Not my son, my daughter back home, or please make sure they follow the Lord's path. It was just like She just wanted her kids to be together, and every time she turned around, someone was leaving her. So she kept saying that, like, someone's leaving me, someone's leaving me. So first it was her daughter, and then it was her other daughter, and then Jimbo left. It was just like people just kept leaving her. So she kept talking about how much people are leaving her. And she put a lot of this weight on Sandy, being like, Sandy, don't leave me. Don't leave me. Don't do this. Don't do what these other folks have done to leave me. So putting all that weight on such a young boy was rough. One of the scenes I remember vividly is when Sandy really wanted this toy for Christmas. And his mom and his grandma was like, hey, if you be good, you'll get the toy, blah, blah, blah. But they also didn't feel that 100% because they couldn't afford to give Sandy what he wanted. And Sandy was so upset about it, but he also didn't want to say how upset he was about it. So when someone gave him a toy, he reacted negatively to it. He threw the toy, and then he got a whooping, and then he was like, okay, this is now my opportunity to cry. I finally got what I wanted. They're upset with me and they're whooping me, but I couldn't cry earlier, so I'm going to cry now because they're whooping me. And I just kept thinking of like how toxic masculinity is being taught, and how we teach our boys, or people who identify as boys, that they can't cry and that crying is not masculine. So I kept thinking about that throughout that whole time of what was going on then. Just saying hi to y'all. Hey, hello. Hey, I got one foot in the bed for a nap. I feel that. I'm currently eating so I can consume drinks of alcohol. I get that. So that is like some of the things that I thought about the book. If we're going to talk briefly about Angie, and Angie is Sandy's mom, I thought her entire role was really interesting. So she meets Sandy's father and falls head over heels for him, right? And her mom is like, the dude is gonna leave you. He's trash. He's lazy. He's garbage. And she's like, no, I love him. He's my husband. Blah, blah, blah. So then one day, Sandy wakes up. Angie wakes up. Jim Boy decided, I'm gonna head out. Didn't even say he's gonna head out. Didn't communicate that he needed to go. Nothing. The man just left. And then instead of Angie being like, okay, he showed me who he is, she said, no, I'm gonna leave my son with my sick mom, who health is not great, and she's been bending and breaking her back for all these folks her whole life. I'm gonna leave my son with my mom, and then I'm gonna go to St. Louis and chase after this man who abandoned me and my son. So the whole time she's there, she just keeps writing mom, and she's just like, yeah, we're trying to find a job so we can send Sandy over here. We're trying to do this, we're trying to do that. And I was just like, why are you following this raggedy man when your son needs you? And then the son, the kid was so nice, right? He was just like observing all these things and learning all these lessons. Like he was learning about, the intersections of race and gender, and he saw this white girl that he liked, and he's like, oh no, I heard that even if you look at a white girl and you have your clothes on, you get lynched, kind of thing. So he was just learning so much about the world and existing as a Black person, and he didn't say much. He had a lot of thoughts, but it wasn't thoughts he was sharing. So I just felt like, man, that kid went through it all, like had to be a part of his mom and his dad issues, of his mom following his dad everywhere, and the dad being like, I don't really want to do fatherhood, really. Then being with grandma, and grandma's just talking smack about dad, and, just complaining that everyone's leaving her and feeling really hurt and putting it on him at like when he was in single digits. Then he's growing up and listening to how other people talk about women. He's trying to figure out what sex is, all these different things. And then grandma dies. Then he gets moving with Tempe, his mom's sister, who is like, Negroes can't do this, Negroes can't do that. I remember there was a passage I wanted to read about something that Tempe said. So let me go ahead and get that. feel like I should have bought my iPad in here. That would have been a better thing to do, but I did not. So I'm just going to keep going and hopefully catch it. Oh, I was on the wrong thing the whole time. I'm like, I'm scrolling. So let me try to find it. Um, hmm. Uh, sorry, I really want to read it. So let me go get my iPad. Okay, let's get into it. So now I'm like going through all these things on the thing. It was so far back, and I was like, I'm going to highlight that. So there was this guy, before I do that, there was this guy who said this. He said, it was Mr. Patrisse. He said, being colored is like being born in the basement of life, with the door to the light locked and barred, and the white folks live upstairs. Just taking into that, what do y'all think of that line? Again, I'll read it. Being colored is like being born in the basement of life, with the door to the light locked and barred, and the white folks live upstairs. So hold on to that. Let me know your thoughts on that. And I thought it was interesting. Okay, I found it. And I thought it was interesting because while reading this book, I didn't realize that Langston Hughes considered it to be like a semi-autobiography of his life. Um, so it's one of those things that I wish that people were alive and we can like talk about those things. Let me know also your overall impressions of this book if you have watched it. And this is people in the live chat and people on the replay. Just letting you know that. I hate how those male stereotypes are constantly being passed down. Even women do it. Exactly. Reading this book has been a struggle for me. I'm on chapter 7, but I will continue regardless. Yeah, it's rough. And there's like a lot of antiquated words that are not commonly used today in Black communities. So I thought that was interesting. And have you found any of those words to be jarring? And if so, what were those words? That's my question to you, Shan Reed. Though he didn't have to speak his truth like that. Okay. Okay. So Tempe is the character again. We talked about Sandy being who the book is primarily about. His grandma, Aunt Haggard. And Aunt Haggard, his grandma, had 2 daughters. Angie, his mom, and Tempe, the other sister. Now, y'all, Tempe is a hot mess throughout the whole thing. She's just, her views is very warped. Like even when Sandy started living with her, he was like, wait a minute. Like he would go to the library. He's a very smart kid, would go to the library and pretty much fact check her because she was just saying nonsense. Really, just nonsense. So this is some of her nonsense. In Tempe, this feeling was an emotional reaction. Hold on, let me go back. White people were forever picturing colored folks with huge slices of watermelon in their hand. Well, She was one colored woman who did not like them. Her favorite fruits were tangerines and grapefruit, for Mrs. Barry Grant had always eaten those, and Tempe had admired Miss Barry Grant more than anybody else. More, of course, than she had admired Aunt Hagar, who spent her days at the wash tub and had loved watermelon. Let me pause. Miss Barry Grant is a white woman who Tempe sought after, not sought after, but she took care of her, and she was just like, the black woman who waited on her and kind of like her maid. I think actually her maid. But Tempe felt like the only person who cared about her was this white woman. Even when people were like, nah, this ain't it, she's just really infatuated with this white woman. I'll continue. Colored people certainly needed to come up in the world, Tempe thought, up to the level of white people, dress like white people, talk like white people, think like white people, and then they would no longer be called niggers. So it's just like, how could you think that? But I also understand the survival of this time. This book was published in 1930, right? We have to understand that. So being published in 1930, there was a lot of racial things that went on in that time that wasn't even written, that we are still feeling through our DNA, that historical trauma, right? And we may not know exactly what those things are, but there's a lot of things that was spoken and unspoken that happened to colored folks at that time. So I want to judge Tempe, but I'm like, was this just her way to survive her blackness? But even if this was a way for her to survive her blackness, what harm was her tongue on other black folks? Just something to think of. Moving forward. Oh, hold on. Let me go to you. Not so much the words, but overall seeing the black experience at that time, which is a lot of ways, has not changed. Exactly. I will say, because of most people know how much I love my dad, but my dad was a lot like Sandy dad, in and out, just being like, I'm gonna show up when I show up, and that's it. My dad haven't started being consistent in my life until I was 15 years old. Um, and he still went to prison after that, and went to jail and stuff like that, but my dad is way more consistent in my life now. Like, the man won't stop calling me and talking to me, and he's just living. He's a, like, similar to what Maya Angelou said about her mom and her dad. She said but particularly her mom. Maya Angelou said that her mom was terrible to children and essentially phenomenal to young adults or adults. And I feel that way about my parents. Like, they did not come through as a kid, but also my parents were doing the best they could with what they had. That's something I think I didn't quite realize until I got older. And even though there were some very hurtful things that my parents and I shared together, I feel like now, like me as an adult, like they really showed up emotionally. They may not can always be there for me in physical need, but emotionally, which seems to be more important to me at this time, they do show up. They do. And I'm trying not to cry, but they do. So Mom and Dad, if y'all watching this, I just want y'all to know, and I tell y'all all the time, I forgive y'all. We don't need to be, hashing on things in the past. It doesn't happen. I'm just really happy at where we're at now. I'm really happy where we are now. So I'll get to what Tempe said. In this feeling, I don't know if I said that. Okay, after the N words. In Tempe, this feeling was an emotional reaction, born of white admiration. But in Mr. Siles, her husband, who shared his wife's views, the same attitude was born of practical thought. The whites had the money, and if Negroes wanted any, the quicker they learned to be like the whites, the better. Stop being lazy, stop singing all the time, stop attending revivals, and learn to get the dollar, because money buys everything, and even the respect of white people. Blues and spirituals Tempe and her husband hated because they were too Negro. Even though I understand that whole thing, passage or paragraph I just read to you, just like set your soul on fire. And if anyone has the ebook, that is page 171 out of 219. If you're viewing from an iPad, I just wanted to say that because y'all, Tempe just, oh, she was just rough. She was just really, really, really rough. That sister was rough. And my thing is, did Angie, Sandy's mom, know how rough this sister was? Like she was not messing around. Like, it was rough. It was rough. Let me get to this valid question. Exactly. And a lot of those tactics, I see an attempt to scrap together as much as agency as possible, even if their version of empowerment seems untoward compromise now. Yeah, an untoward compromise. Exactly. Exactly. She will raise your blood pressure for real. Like she just her mind was just I'm trying to like find something else. Like Tempe, like Tempe stopped. I'm reading a sign where it's like Tempe stopped talking to her sister because of Jim Boy. Now, Jim Boy probably deserved it, but like the way she was throwing out Negro towards him, it's like, ma'am, were you looking in the mirror too? Because people really out here calling the pots out here really calling kettles black. And I don't know if anybody understand that reference. I like to think it's universal in certain circles. Sorry, I'm like talking about this book so fast that I'm not saying it slowly. But yeah, it was rough. It was rough. There's also a part where Tempe and Sandy got into an argument about Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. That was very interesting. That started on chapter A Shelf of Books. So if those of you who haven't read the book, I think A Shelf of Books was one of my favorite chapters as well. And also Pool Hall, which was chapter 25. Do y'all have any questions that you would like to ask about this book? I also wanted to say there is there's a part of the book where the title was introduced, and I'm going to read that to you. That must be the reason. Hold on, I need to like finish the whole thing. Then often arguments would begin, boasting, proving, and fending, or telling of exploits with guns, knives, razors, with cops, detectives, with evil women and wicked men, out bragging, out lying on one another, all talking at once. Sometimes they would create a racket that could be heard for blocks. To the uninitiated, it would seem that a fight was imminent. But underneath, all was good natured and friendly, and through and above everything went laughter. No matter how belligerent or lewd their talk was, or how sordid the tales they told, and dangerous pleasures and strange uh, perversities, these black men laughed. That must be the reason, thought Sandy, why poverty-stricken old Negroes like Uncle Dan Givens lived so long. Because to them, no matter how hard life might be, it was not without laughter. I think that was a strong point. I also want to talk about homosexuality as it's written in this book. So there is a chapter. I'm going to try to find it right now. towards the end of the book, I think it's in Chicago. That's page 198, if anyone needs to know in the book. So in the chapter Chicago, Tempe is over Sandy's misbehaving. Sandy is hanging out with his friends. He's literally just observing. Like, he's going out, doing all these things, but he's not really engaging. He's just observing, seeing what's out there. And Tempe is like, no, you can't be in my house and not, abide by my rules and read. She even said, like, I want white folks to be very proud of the Negro I'm raising because he's going to be something like them. And because Sandy wasn't giving Tempe that, she said, look, I'm going to give you some money and I'm going to ship you off to your mom. You're going to Chicago. You're hanging out with your mom. Okay, right? Hanging out with the mom, he meets mom. Mom tells him, like, hey, I need you to help me with this, and that. So then that reminds me of, like, currently in Black communities, how, a lot of times Black sons are to take the role of their fathers and, like, protect the home and do these things and do all those things because they're not there. So that was one thing I thought about. The other thing was Sandy was at his mom's house, very small, like, it's a very small apartment. Like, it's so small and situated in an odd place where soon as the trains would roll past, the whole apartment will shake and you couldn't hear anything. So it was really difficult to even have a conversation. And he had to share a bedroom with his mom. So the first night he was there, he wanted to go roam and observe. Like, that's really his MO. Our dude is observant. He want to observe everything. So he leaves the apartment and this guy comes up to him and the guy has makeup on and he's looking at him and he's like, well, the guy is asking him questions. Sandy is being respectful and responding. Then the guy's like, hey, I have alcohol and all these things and pictures of naked women upstairs. You should come and see it. I have drinks, I have all these things. Mind you, this is a grown man and Sandy is clearly a child. So he is like being like, hey, I want to like kind of coerce you and kind of sway you to come into my apartment. So the book used the word queer. Now, I'm not a historian, so I am not going to pretend that I am. But I wonder if the word queer is used to be like weird or queer as in gay. So that's something I really couldn't tease that well. And if anyone knows that, I appreciate that, or have insight on that in the book, I couldn't tease that out really well. But Sandy was like, oh, in the church back home in Kansas, they warned me about queer men trying to steal little boys and like assault them, essentially. So I was wondering, I was trying to be able to tease out with the text that was given of like, is there homophobia? Is there it seems like it could be an assault situation. Like, even if it wasn't, let's take queer out of it, right? This man is trying to get this boy to go upstairs and watch naked women and talking about, I'm going to get you drunk. And I think he even said he had pills or something. And I was just like, you better run, dude. Like, so, but he ended up running. It was a whole situation. But that whole part, I was like, this is a good insight to how at this time and during the Harlem Renaissance of how people viewed homosexuality. But the way in which it was written, I personally didn't feel, I don't want to say I didn't feel. What I'm saying to you, that I was trying to understand that scene and it wasn't clear. Or maybe it was clear and I'm not saying it. Either way, I love a book that's going to have me think on it and then come back. So I did underline it somewhere, but I'm like scrolling through and can't find it. But I thought it was very interesting that it was happening. So I did find the thing, the section of like when this was happening. So it kind of starts on page 204 of the ebook, and it continues into probably around 210. So that was interesting. I will say that I do enjoy Langston Hughes writing, and I do plan on reading other things. And if you've already read Langston Hughes' work, what book do you think I should start with next? And I just want to thank everybody for coming out and talking to me about, and talking to me or talking with me with this book. Even if you didn't read it, I just needed to word vomit about how I felt about this book. And thank you all for rocking with me, because this is my second stream on my channel today. And then the next one, which everyone's excited about, will be at 9 p.m. Hope y'all are bringing your beverages. I'm still trying to figure out how to incorporate like a game piece. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So have any of y'all read Langston Hughes? You read more of his poetry than fiction. Do you mind giving me like a title? I'm like sitting here like with a title. I was trying to find more information about it, but it was on like the New York Times about what parts of this book felt really autobiography to him, or autobiographical. I don't know if that's a word, to him. And they were like, you have to pay. And I was like, pay what? Nothing. So that's how I felt about that. Anyway. But if you don't have a thing, don't worry about it. Like if you like, I got nothing for you, I'm okay with that. Warning is my favorite. Warning. Please read it real quick. It's due. Please read it real. Oh, do you want me to read it? Okay. All right. Okay, hold on. Okay, warning by Langston Hughes. Okay. Warning by Langston Hughes. Negroes, sweet and docile, meek, humble, and kind. Beware the day they change their mind. Wind, in the cotton fields, gentle breeze, beware the hour its uprooted trees. Wow. Again, Negroes, sweet and docile, meek, humble, and kind, beware the day they change their mind. Wind, in the cotton breeze, gentle breeze, in the cotton fields, gentle breeze, beware the hour its uprooted trees. It's very much giving me Lynch. It's very much giving me, you can be humble, you can be sweet, you can be kind, but they still would change their mind and kill you. Be aware, because they out here for us. They trying to get us. There's just so many different things. There's so many different things you can take from this. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Hello. Hello, Shan Read Books. So with that being said, I wanted to try to keep today's review of Not Without Laughter. It's a very short, I thought it was a short novel. It was 219 pages. I accidentally bought it twice on ebook. Such is life. Such is life. Also, if you didn't catch the interview with Shay's with the Hobbies, you see her name in the live chat. Shay, Cache Warren, for sure. Out here talking about the interview that we did earlier. We're discussing Penelope Curve and Karma Always Come Back. Why am I forgetting the name of it? I'm looking now. I will not be defeated by karma. It could be my karma now that we think about it. Karma always come back. So I said it right? Who knows? Oh, I get we are these things, but be aware of the day we stop choosing the high road. Exactly. Beware of the day you reap what you sow, kind of thing. Exactly. Such an honor, humble, and thankful for the opportunity to breathe. No, it was an honor to have you this morning. So don't forget to go and look at that interview earlier. And thank y'all for rocking with me. And I will see y'all tonight. Costumes, living our lives. Halloween is tomorrow. So see y'all later. Bye.